In today's video, we are going to be talking about delight.
How to find the delight in life, but most importantly, how to find the delight in business. And stay with us to the end of the video because there's a well-known brand that we're going to take you to that has done a great job of finding the delight.
There's something that this well-known company does, which I personally love because it brings community into their whole customer experience. The way that they do it is very subtle and local feeling, but it's still totally on brand for one of the most well-known retail brands.
Now, we mentioned about finding the delight. There's you cold callers out there who have done it. You know what I'm talking about. Those of you who have never done it, here's kind of a little quick drive-through. When you get someone on the phone, in your mind, you have a goal. Now, the person who's picking up the phone doesn't know what your goal is. You want to find the delight. So if I'm talking to Susie on the phone, Susie, hi, this is Rob from blah, blah, blah. I would love it if you could help me out today and make a brand reference. This is all about doing your research. So if it's a hotel, I've stayed at your property numerous times. I love the lobby. It's so well lit. The architecture there is amazing. Because she probably thinks the same thing, right? You're talking about her hotel. I wonder if you could do me a huge favor. Just point me in the right direction. Who would I need to speak to for blah, 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 blah? You're including her. You have that moment. The key is do your research, whether it's an ice cream shop, a hotel, an auto place, find some point where you can get a smile that you can hear through the phone or a laugh, and then he or she is open to hearing what you have to say. That's the key.
What's really interesting about delight is that a lot of the times delight comes from community. It comes from an experience. It really comes down to human connection. And human connections can happen in a lot of different places. They can happen in a retail location, like a coffee shop, and they can even happen in cold calling. When we cold call someone, there's actually a way to bring delight, and that is through human connection. Rob has a lot of experience doing cold calling, business development, and developing partnerships. And one of the stories that he told me today in his efforts was really inspiring. Rob, you got to take me through this story. The way that you got someone to feel comfortable with you and trust you within just a few seconds of cold calling them was really impressive.
I got someone on the phone in a very particular department at a very big, well-known, well-branded company. If I said the company name, you'd know them worldwide. Now, I had experience with that company in a previous life earlier where I worked for that company. And there was a phraseology that this particular company uses that is well known worldwide.
So one of the things that Rob talks about is this idea of phraseology. And what's really amazing about phraseology is that it brings human connection. If I work at a company and we have a slogan and someone mentions my slogan, that's going to resonate with me. I probably went through a very rigorous branding process of helping come up with that slogan. So if someone knows that, it means they did the research on me. It means they understand me. And as a result, I'm going to have that human connection.
Almost like a secret handshake. So when I got that person on the phone and I mentioned that phraseology, she immediately laughed and lit up. And from that moment on, I knew that she was listening now more than she would ever listen to anyone else. You've got to find that secret handshake, and that's all in the research.
I think one of the reasons why we were drawn to the community board at Starbucks, it shows delight, which shows community, which shows human connection. Because what that board is with all those Post-it notes, it's like a social network. It's a nexus of humans coming together with their thoughts, all existing in one place. I recently had a podcast with Chris Kirkpatrick. Now, if you Google the name Chris Kirkpatrick, he's one of the members of the band NSYNC. This was not that guy with the goatee. This is the CEO of a company called Life 180. And what he shared with me was this story where he landed a $3.4 million deal using the Dubb software. Now, as a CEO of a software company, to hear a story like that, it's one of the most humbling, exciting, and inspirational things that you can hear. Someone could invest in this much money in the technology that we built and got this much ROI. Take a listen to what he said.
First of all, I was sending them emails. Nobody was responding. I was sending them phone calls. Nobody was responding. I got Dubb and I recorded videos, a $3.4 million deal, and we closed it less than 30 days later after sending this out.
So Rob, you had a really interesting statistic.
Hitting a baseball is one of the hardest things to do in the world in terms of sports. Now, a golfer could argue that as well. Even a tennis player could argue that as well. But baseball, you can make the Hall of Fame if you hit 3 out of 10 pitches, 30%, 3 out of 10. Doesn't seem like a great percentage, but for baseball, that puts you in the Hall of Fame. If you are getting 3 out of 10 prospects, you're doing a really good job. You gotta remember, cold calling, there is a burn and churn nature to it, but you have to understand that when you use the proper strategy, using phraseology, doing your research, understanding cues, you are giving yourself a chance to hit 3 out of 10 and make the Hall of Fame.
When Rob talks about the batting average, I think what he's talking about is the fact that sales in many ways is a numbers game. But in actuality, what I think he's talking about is that not everyone is going to connect with you, but if some do, that's all that matters.
Quick fun fact about that trophy that Ruben's holding up. Number one, it says the Red Sox on it.
which, being from Boston, is my favorite baseball team. Number 2, it says Mason Field, which is the exact same field I played Little League on back in Boston growing up. Pretty awesome. Quick note about the Red Sox. We sold Babe Ruth to the Yankees way back in the day, and ever since that happened, we didn't win a championship. It was called the Curse of the Bambino. 90 years later plus, in 2004, we broke through, won the championship. And ever since then, we've won more championships, and it's been a true rivalry between the Red Sox and the Yankees.
My objection to cold calling is always in the rejection, the objection to the rejection. I think what a lot of people suffer from is the fear of rejection and not wanting to go through that process of being ignored, having someone hang up on you, or even worse. What I think is really interesting about what you're presenting is that it's not about the loses, it's about the win. And with a 3 out of 10 average of just getting someone on the phone, you could do a lot with that. But really, I think one of the most important things when making your calls is doing the research. Research is protection from rejection. When you spend a couple of minutes getting to know someone, looking at their LinkedIn profile, their social bio, just a couple of clicks in, it's amazing what you can find in terms of what they're into as an individual. And quite often there are so many connecting points. But do not make the cardinal sin of saying that you have common friends on LinkedIn, because nowadays that means absolutely nothing. We're all connected on LinkedIn now. It's got almost 1 billion users, so don't make that mistake, because chances are they don't know that person. It's better to do what Rob says, which is to find delight. Find delight in their brand and in their experience, and then share that with them, whether it's through phraseology or whether it's just through showing that you've done your research and that you appreciate something that they've done. That's what's really going to create real connection. The best cold call that I've ever received was when someone said, "Hey Ruben, this is a cold call and I'd like to know if you'd be interested in increasing your sales." And here's why I love the story. When he said this is a cold call, it instantly made me trust him, because he wasn't afraid to admit that he was cold calling me. After having a conversation with him, he actually told this trick that if anyone ever cold calls you, ask them, "Hey, is this a cold call?" And if they say no, it means they're probably not being honest. Because if they can't admit the fact that they just cold called you, who knows what they're not going to be honest about.
It's a bad first step.
It's kind of like lying about your age on the first date.
Or having a fake profile before you meet someone.
But if they say yes and they're honest, the sky's the limit, because they're not afraid to be vulnerable and authentic and tell you exactly what they're doing, which is cold calling. With this guy who cold called me, we ended up building a relationship and co-hosting webinars and doing all sorts of fun stuff, all because of a cold call. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to this channel, and don't forget to click that little notification bell so that you know when our next video drops. Thanks again. This is Ruben and Rob from Dubb. See you guys on the other side.